Okay, it says you are live. So Instagram, let's see. Maybe I want to check any of Facebook or YouTube to see if we are showing there live. Okay, let me just quickly. Hello, everyone. Can anyone see us live? Okay, yeah, I can see us on Instagram. Okay, you know what? I'm going to pull my chair here. Yeah, we're live. So, hi, Ayo. Hello. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to sit. So how are you doing today?
I'm all right. Thank you very much, Oge.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Anyone joining us live? My name is Oge, and I have Ayo here with me. We're going to be talking about OCM. So, if anyone is joining us live from Facebook, from YouTube, Instagram, please just drop a chat, a comment in the chat. Tell us where you are joining us from today. Tell us where you are joining us from today. I'm excited to know. So Aya, while we wait for anyone to join us, what do we have or what do you have? You are the guest speaker today. I'm just the host here, anchoring this. So what do you have for our guests today? Anyone that will be joining us live, what are they going to leave this session with?
All right, so thank you so very much, Oge. I think we're gonna have a very good time today. It will be so good, in my opinion, that we will think that 30 minutes has just gone by in 1 minute. So it's more or less gonna look like we're running an Ask Me Anything session. So it's gonna be anything session for new folks who want to come into the field of change management. And so we will be taking your questions. It's not going to be a full training session. Of course, we cannot run a full training session in 30 minutes. It's just more or less going to look like a practical conversation. So I want us to talk about what change management really looks like, what change practitioners really do, how you can actually move from being interested in that field into really practicing as a change management. So you're going to have a lot of room to ask any questions you want to ask about the role of a change manager, about the career path, about tools, resistance, stakeholder management and engagement, anything at all, as long as it is related or connected to change management. And even if you're very, very new to change management, you also feel free to jump in with any of the questions at any time. If we're not able to get all of them, not to worry. We're going to be running this on a weekly basis as a lead up to the OCM development program that's going to be running for about 8 weeks, beginning from the end of May, from the last Saturday of May, May 30th. So we'll be running that every week for the next 7 or 8 weeks. So if you're not able to get your question today, we're still going to have this same session next week. You can have this question answered. And if you still cannot get enough, and I do not actually anticipate that we will get enough, we would like to then see you again at the master program coming up, starting from the end of May.
Awesome. So I quickly, I'm curious. Before we get before other people start the questions start rolling in. Even though I have a couple of them I want to start out with. I'm curious to know, how did you start your journey into change management? Did you graduate from school and started practicing organizational change management, or how has your career evolved up until now?
Oh, I think that's a very good question. And I wish I was able to say, like so many others, to say something along the line of, oh, I just stumbled into change management, or one thing or the other from my first job to another job, and then I felt a calling to go to change management and I moved. No, that isn't my story at all. My story is completely different. My story is straight from the university. It felt like I was prepared for change management because at my after my university degree, which was in communication and language arts, so the first role I got was that of a communications officer in an organization that was rapidly undergoing different levels of change. So 6 months into that role, I was just moved into the change management department because
Wow.
of my background in communication. And since then, I've just been nowhere else. So I'm like a jack of one trade. So I've done only change management for about the 16 years of my career.
Wow.
So
Wow. Wow, that's interesting. For me, I think I fall into the category of the first scenario you described. I'm an accidental BA. Yeah, I read industrial chemistry in school, nothing related to business analysis, but today I'm practicing business analysis and no regret at all.
Mhm,
I've also had
mhm,
opportunities to stumble into change management because of the nature of the
mhm,
work I do as a
mhm,
business analyst. But again, I never thought of it. I didn't even know any of this career existed until I got.
mhm,
I started working. I was working within projects, and then there will be OCM work to be done. Sometimes because they are very rare to find, they are not very common.
mhm,
I
mhm,
would be pulled as a BA. Again, I realized looking back, I think my manager was actually trying to manage project costs. So the OCM consultant would come in very few hours, and then they get to allocate some tasks to me, the BA, and then I'll be like, oh, this is not part of my work. But looking back, all doing that work kind of groomed me. Everything I know about change management was on the job, right? So it's actually been a great experience. Okay, so Ayo, we have
mhm.
limited time today. We've already spent 6 minutes of that time, but it was good. Maybe okay, yeah, I know you've talked about how you started. Well, do you want to quickly do a quick intro about yourself before I jump into the rest of the questions?
Okie dokie. So I started from I started like 16 years ago, like I told you. So over that time, I have been in different fields in change management. I've been in different countries. I did the first part of my evolution as a change manager was in Nigeria for like 12 years, and then I moved from there to the United Kingdom, and I also served as a change manager in different public institutions in the United Kingdom as well, at least
Mm,
3 of them to my count before I left the United Kingdom, and then I came to Canada also pursuing the same career. So right now in Canada, I've been in a change management role for about 2 years now, and so we've looked at different. I've handled work with different kind of environments, government environments, health environments, financial environments. People are the same. Change management is the same all over the world. When I say it is the same, what I really mean is, although there are organizational nuances and
mhm,
different cultural contexts, but the basic premise remains the same. A change manager wants to ensure or do everything they can do to help the people who are experiencing the change be able to not only adapt to the change, but also to sustain the change when the change manager is taken out of the context. Our work is context based. So when
mm,
the context and the change falls apart because you are no longer running it, then that is not a change that you have really managed well. So it shouldn't fall apart in your absence. So that is what we really do to ensure that people are able to carry on in the new environment until it becomes uh, a, a natural way of breathing, a natural way of life for them.
mhm.
Yeah. So I think
Awesome,
that's where we can
awesome.
leave it
Thank
for
you.
now.
Yep. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's before I jump into the question, hi everyone. If anyone is joining us, please drop in the chat whether you are connecting from Facebook, from YouTube or Instagram. Can you just drop a hi in the chat and tell us where you're connecting from today? And please drop your questions in the chat. Ayo is here to take your question. So Ayo, our first question here, let me just call it up here. First question I have. What does a change manager actually do across the life cycle of a project?
This is a really good question, and I like that. This is fundamental. It's foundational to what we do or what
Mhm,
a change manager should do. I think I refer to that. I started with the end in mind, and the end in
hmm,
mind is simple. Whatever innovation, whatever transformation program, whatever change that is being introduced in an organization, you want it such that at the end of that implementation, you want to have a situation where take out the project manager, take out the change manager. You want the change to still run as though it was the normal, everyday business as usual practice.
Hmm.
So that is the end goal. So, but across the life cycle of a project, what does a change manager do? That just takes us back to the life cycle, project life cycle. There are different life cycles depending on the framework that you're looking at. So for whatever, we can still boil all of them down into the beginning, initiation, into the executing, implementation, into post-execution or post-implementation. So across those three different parts of a project life cycle. So at the
Mhm.
beginning, some can even go so far as pre-beginning, as early as pre-beginning. That is when you begin
Exactly.
to look at the rationale or the reason or the business case for whatever change that you want to introduce. So let me just give you a very practical example, so we don't deal so much in theories. Say, for example, I was running a company that have been very much used to running their accounting and payroll on Excel. Say they have 20 employees, and for each employee, the salary is also calculated on another column, and they do that every month, every time they want to do their payroll. So now, say again, something happens, and then this company suddenly becomes very large. And then suddenly, from 20 employees, now they have like 2,000 employees. So they now
Wow.
discover again that that manual life cycle is no longer efficient for them. A lot of time is wasted. In fact, it is even prone to a lot of error. So they need to now bring in another software that can automate all of these processes for them. So they think of bringing in, say, maybe an SAP HR project or an SAP HR platform to
Mhm.
run their payroll for them. So that is a change. Now, you are coming in as a change manager. So you begin to ask yourself different kind of questions. So at that very pre-beginning, even before the decision has been made to start the project, you're thinking as a change manager, what is this change about? Why is this change necessary?
Mhm.
Who will be affected by this change? What are the benefits of this change? So those are the questions that you go to work with as a change manager at the beginning of the project. Once you have those kind of questions answered, then you can move on to planning the execution of the project. Remember again, you are not actually responsible for executing the project. You are responsible for bringing the people along to make them
Exactly.
understand the benefits. You are like a change marketer, kind of. You're bringing the people along to make them understand why that change is necessary. So you
Mhm.
are like social, like social media influencers, right? So you are like an influencer, although you don't really have ultimate power at getting it done, but you can influence people, you can influence leaders into
Hmm.
start thinking in the right direction. So you come up with different kind of communication materials. You dovetail your communication materials to cater to the needs of your different stakeholders. That also brings up so many things again. You will notice that I mentioned the word stakeholder. A stakeholder is just simply anybody that has any interest in either the success or the failure of your project. So people in HR who are used already to running their payroll system on the Excel sheet. They are important stakeholders to you. Why?
Yep.
You need them to be able to run the same processes even better on the new system. If they can run
Mhm.
the same process and they can get the same result on the new system, but they do not see that it is better and more efficient, then you've not done anything, because there's no point in changing a winning team. So if Excel can do it for me and SAP can do it for me, and they can do it to the same degree, to the same rate, then there is no point at all. But
Yeah.
if you can prove and communicate to them that they can, that they will be able to get their job done faster, even more correctly and more efficiently on SAP, then you are like 50% done into making them adapt that change. So
What's the need?
across the
That's
life.
oh, sorry to
Sorry.
cut you short there. So that's what's the need for me. You want to highlight the what's the need for them on that project.
Yeah, beautiful, exactly. But we don't want to bring everything out of the bag, right? And I don't want to confuse my audience with some of those change management centric or generic
Okay, sorry. Okay.
terminology. So just to bring it down to everybody, to to their level, right? So
Yep.
you want to do all of this diagnosis and be able to get that communication done across the different lives. So towards the end again, at the end of the project, you're no longer looking at communicating the awareness or communicating the communicating knowledge. Right now, towards the end or at the end of the project, you're now looking at reinforcement. You're sustaining that change, and that is really where the work lies. Of course, across the project, you can do all of those things, but when you get to the end, and then you know that your contract is running to an end, you'll soon be out of that project. What do you need to put in place to ensure that the change sticks even when you're out of the equation? So at that stage, you're looking at everything you can do to ensure the adoption remains sticks like glue.
I like that, sticks like glue. Thank you so much, Ayo. That was really a great question. Hi, everyone. I see some people have joined us online. Please let us know where you are joining us from, and feel free to drop your question in the chat so that we can respond to your question live here. And if you have any follow-up question, please feel free to share. So wherever you're joining us, just type in the comment section. They will see your question, and I can raise it up here so that Ayo can address your question. So thank you. So let me go to the next question here on the, and I think this is related to the first one you answered. It said here, it says, how does change management create adoption beyond the communication, the training, the awareness, all those things, and which is, I think, is similar to what you talked about, sustainment, making it stick like glue. So what are the strategies you use as a change manager on project to achieve this adoption beyond the activities that happen in the project?
Yeah, I like the quality of questions that are coming through. That is really an important question, because when people think about change management, you think about communication, you think about training, you think about awareness. But another question that I can ask as a follow-up to that same, not really as a follow-up, but to just get us to the answer even closer or faster than I ever will bring you closer to it, is this. Change management as a discipline or as a career did not only become prominent until, say, about 2 decades or thereabouts ago, to 20, 25 years ago, as a discipline. Before that time, have we asked ourselves the question, were there projects being run, being led, being change managed? Of course, projects are as old as man, right? Anything that needs you to put 1 and 2 together to achieve a particular result is a project. And as long as there are projects, there will always be people who are affected by that change or by that project. So change management has also been in existence as long as man has been in, but it didn't really come to the fore as a discipline until about 20, 30, thereabout years ago, really became very prominent at that time. So
and I bet some organizations still are not change management aware. They don't even know that their projects need some change support, some people to manage people's side of change. So I bet to say it's still an emerging role, but not emerging, but there's still lots of awareness.
Yeah.
We still need to do more work.
That's correct. That's correct. And what we often see is that many organizations say they know what change management is, say they need change management, they need project management, but when it really comes down to it, change management becomes something like an afterthought at times. And that's simply because it's not imagine, like you said, using your words, but there's still a lot of awareness to be done. So back to that question again, how does change management create adoption beyond training, beyond this? And I was asking a question that will help us think towards the answer, which is, what did change management used to do? Or how was change management practiced in those days when we did not even have anything called a change management discipline? So the answer to that question will really help us answer that question. So what do we do? What can we do? What does change management do to create adoption for adoption beyond communication, beyond training, beyond awareness. These three are very important. Communication is always important. You cannot do change management without communication. That's not possible. Training is also important. Most times you do not do change management without training, and training is often necessary when maybe you're bringing in a new system, a new solution, or even when you want to train people's minds. When you're not even bringing up, you might not even be bringing any solution. It could be a cultural reorientation program, and that's not training in the traditional sense of training. But again, you're still training people's minds to think differently. Awareness too is important. You want people to really know all of those. But yes, all those three are important. But how do we create adoption even beyond these three? And number one thing I would like to really emphasize is this. One of the misconceptions in change management is to think that when we have communicated, we have done change management. No. Communication is a part of change management. But change management is a lot wider, more vast than communication. You can send out 10 emails. You can send out a one-pager. And you can track all of this in your communication and engagements tracker. But in spite of the fact that you've done all of that, you may still have not done change management. In terms of training as well, you may send people on 1-day training, 5 days training, targeted trainings, wanting to build their skill levels, which is important, which is a part of change management, but that again is not all about change management. The same thing goes for awareness. The key, or what makes you understand that change management or adoption has happened, is you want to see a change in behavior. If that is the target, you want to see before the change happened, what is the percentage of people who log into the new system? Say 2%. And then you rolled out your communications, you rolled out your trainings, you rolled out your awareness campaigns, then you measure that again. When you measure that again, and you see that 2% has moved to 50%, you can begin to say, yes, it's likely that the effort that I have put in place as a change manager have yielded adoption because there's been a change in this statistics. However, you see, one of the first things that I noticed in my career as a change manager was I observed a gap, which is me going beyond what many change managers would think about. And that is this. I noticed that when I bring in, when I execute all of my change management efforts in terms of communication, awareness, training, and all of that, speaking with guys one-on-one, getting the leaders on board, I would typically see an increase in my percentages, say from 10% to 70%. And that would really make me feel good that I've done a good job. But then I began to think about this. And I want you also to think about that as you're thinking about going into change management. How do you really want to show that your efforts led directly to that change in statistics? That you want to establish a relationship of causation between your efforts as a change manager and the results that you see on the field. And so that made me think of taking a program in social research to really understand how to qualitatively and quantitatively assess my change management efforts, to be able to say with all confidence that yes, although there is no one-to-one relationship between my efforts and the output, but there is a very there is significant relationship between what I did or what the change management department has done and what we are seeing and the kind of success we are seeing on the field. And so you need to have that kind of training. And again, at our upcoming OCM development program, we're going to go a bit deeper into that. How do you establish that your change management efforts have created adoption beyond all the communication and training and awareness campaigns that you did? How do you establish that there is a causative relationship between change management and project success?
So are you trying to say that is in comparing maybe looking at data, a particular data you took, maybe you conducted a survey to assess people's readiness or the level of awareness and understanding of the future state, and then taking it again, comparing the gap. Is that just is that what really helps you, create that adoption beyond what happens during the project? Is it that?
Yeah, that's part of it, but that
Okay.
isn't all there is to it. But I think you hit the nail right on the head when you mentioned creating a baseline, starting with a baseline. This is where we were before we did everything we did, and this is where we are now. But a more clinical interrogator will then say, good that you are here now, but if change management had not done anything, don't you think we will still be here? How then do you really prove to us that it was your change management that brought us to this
this far?
point? Because I had that experience at one point.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that made me go back and begin to look at some of the theories and change management and social research. And I was able to bring something together that would help me answer that question with some level of confidence, if I am asked again.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you for your response. So hi everyone. For those that are still joining us, I think we have just about 5 minutes online. So please, if you do have any questions, how time flies when you're having fun, and we've been having good fun with Ayo here educating us about OCM. If you have any questions you want Ayo to address live, please drop it in the chat. Ayo and I can see all your chat and we can address them very quickly. Let me just make sure I am okay. Yes, so I can see all of the chat here. So please drop your questions while Ayo will respond to them. We'll take one more question and see where that takes us before we wrap it for today. But remember, like Ayo mentioned, we're going to be doing this every Saturday. So please, if we don't answer your question today, come with your question next week and we'll make sure we start with your questions. So the next question I have here, Ayo. How do you diagnose resistance? How do you assess readiness? And how do you know where to intervene on a change project?
Oh my.
That's loaded, right?
That's a triple barreled question.
Okay, maybe you take it one by one just for the benefit of our audience. So first of all, how do you diagnose resistance? Let's start from that.
I like that part because this is one of the that is one of the parts of change management that I really do love. You say I see change managers or change. All of us have been to doctors. All of us, a lot of us have taken our cars or something like that to maybe to the garage or to the mechanic for some work on it. And when you go to the doctor and you present with, say, a stomach ache, the doctor doesn't just quickly give you a medication for stomach ache. The doctor begins to ask you different questions. They could ask you, when last did you eat? Okay, I ate yesterday. So you mean you've not eaten at all today? No, I have not had something. It could be that. Maybe that is it. And they give you something to eat. And then you eat something. And then they ask you again the same question 30 minutes later. Do you feel better now? I don't really feel better. I still feel the pain. And then okay, so that means it does not have anything to do with hunger. Maybe it is this. And then they ask you different questions. They begin to probe and probe. So doctors really pretend like they know everything. They don't know anything. They can only work with the information that you give to them. And so that's similar to what a change manager does. Change managers appear like we are jacks of all trades, like
magicians.
Exactly, thank you. Like bring us into the hospital environment, we know what to do. Bring us to finance, we know what to do. No, we don't really know at all. At all. We don't know nothing. The only thing we know is what you tell us. So we want to diagnose resistance. So where do we expect resistance? And we go to work by asking some questions as well. So if a project was to start or to begin, I would say, who are those affected? And then they tell me, this project will have to do with the finance department. Oh, okay. It affects the entire organization. Oh, yes, it does. But we think finance will be mostly impacted. Oh, why do you think finance will be mostly impacted? Oh my, don't you know? I don't know. Tell me why. It's because there are 4 workflows in finance. This project is going to affect all of those workflows. When you go to HR, it's only going to affect only one workflow, but it's going to affect all the 4. Oh, beautiful. So that tells me finance department or finance staff are going to be very important. And so the higher the level of importance, the higher the potential for resistance. So that is, again, a diagnosis for me. So if it's going to affect everything in finance, then it means that I can expect resistance from every area than if it were only going to affect only one workflow. So how do you diagnose resistance? You diagnose resistance by asking the right questions.
Awesome.
When I was in the university again, I think my training in communication, I actually thought I was going to be a broadcast journalist. So my training in communication led me to always asking those 5 questions. When we're in school, we call them the 5 W questions, the 5 W's and 1 H. That is why, what, where, when. What's the last one? The last one is how, but there are 5 W's. I can't remember the 5th one.
Where, why. Is what,
yeah,
why, where, when. Then what, where, why, where, when.
Okay, so that's 5, yeah.
Yeah, that's 5 then. How?
Yeah. And then the last one is H. So again, go to work asking those questions. What is this change about? Who are the people impacted? Why is this change happening? When you ask those questions, your answers to those questions will automatically let you know where to expect resistance. That is not to say that HR being affected by only one who have only one workflow affected might also not come with some. Yes, they will. They might. It's not. You cannot. At times, you just have to be flexible enough to understand that where you think you might expect the most resistance, you might not actually. It might be different from what you will see on the ground. So simply put, to diagnose resistance, ask the right questions. Once you get those areas that are mostly impacted, expect a lot more potential resistance from those areas. So that is about diagnosing it. The second
Can I ask you a question before you move to that second part? So you talked about workflows, and I'm curious, do change managers bother about workflows? Like so you mentioned workflows. So how do you even identify the workflows before you identify people that are involved in that workflow? I just want you to talk a little bit about that, because I thought workflows is a BA, just business analysts that are bothered, that are interested in the workflows and all of that. I didn't know change managers are interested in workflows as well.
Oh yes, oh yes. We have a program. We have a saying again that you do not develop for people, you develop with people. So we need to know the workflows. We may not need to understand with the workflows. We don't even really need to understand it. Like unlike BAs who might want to understand all the technicalities behind those workflows, we really do not need all of that. But we need to know the workflows. We need to know, okay, say finance, they run 4 processes in a month. Each of the 4 processes has their own different workflows, from initiation to termination. It could be iterative, it could be cyclical, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. But what we are looking for is, at what point in this workflow will the change be visible? At what points in these workflows will the change be visible? Say when they initiate the purchase order, and then it moves from client 1, or it moves from purchase or buyer 1 to buyer 2. When it gets to buyer 2, where the approval needs to happen, the approval used to happen on Excel, and then they send it back. But now when it gets to buyer 2, the approval will no longer happen on Excel. In fact, it will no longer even go to buyer 2 at all. It just goes straight to maybe senior buyer 1. So buyer 2 is automatically out of the loop. So that is a change in the workflow. So buyer 2, we would expect that there will be some kind of resistance from buyer 2, because you are taking buyer 2 out of the system. And so you want to develop some kind of communication for buyer too, for those people who used to be relevant, so to speak, in the old system, who
Mm-hmm.
will now appear to not have any role to play in the new system. You want to make them understand that no, you have a role to play, but your role is changing. So
Mm.
we need to understand the workflow. We need to see those places in the workflow where the change will land and target them. We don't want to give Panadol, or we don't want to give um, ibuprofen for somebody who simply needs paracetamol.
Yep.
You really want to know where to land your change management efforts, so you don't
Effort.
concentrate on the not so needed parts of the workflow or of the people who are affected, and then you leave the guys who are really affected by that change, who are already harboring negative feelings or negative attitudes towards the change by virtue
Yep.
of the fact that they're no longer going to be involved. You want to come up with some kind of persuasive communication that still tells them that yes, we don't need you for this anymore, but we still need your expertise in these areas.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Ayo. So let's talk about how do you assess readiness?
Yes, and so you want to assess readiness. I like using a lot of anecdotes because I feel anecdotes really drive the point home. At the end of every term, or at the end of every, you're assessed, and then your weak points are clear. The areas you need to work on are clear. In the same manner, you want to assess readiness. You want to judge and see for yourself if the people. Because remember, always have it at the back of your mind that what you are doing is getting people ready for the change that is coming. So you need to actually gauge whether they are ready for that change that is coming. There are different methods, there are different tools, a lot of tools that you can use to do that. For the
Mm-hmm.
sake of our time, I will just say one of the things you can do is to regularly run a pulse check. A pulse check is just a fancy word. What it simply means, you want to check the pulse. Again, you go to the doctor, he checks your pulse. You're reading 72. Oh, that is good. Oh, you're reading 140. Oh, did you run when you were coming here? Are you anxious? So you want to get the same kind of feedback. Check the pulse of the organization. Check the pulse of the people. And how do you check the pulse? Many methods again. One method that I often default to is by running a survey, by running
Mm-hmm.
a poll. You want to ask people some questions. Again, that depends on the size of your organization. For example, if you're right now, I'm in an organization that has about 20,000 staff. So it's going to be difficult to do one-on-one conversations
Yep.
with the people. So if, depending on the size of the organization, you want to do maybe a survey that you send out with closed and open-ended question. And this is where my background towards research
Mm.
person also comes into play. Then you want to analyze those responses. You want to even have one-on-one discussions again with managers, people managers, or manager of managers, right? Or even with the directorate. So have some one-on-one discussion with them. Based on all of that, you can assess or you can gauge the organization's level of readiness, and you'll be in a point to say, yes, CEO, let's go ahead with this change. It's time for us to implement it. And at times, your readiness examination may tell you to advise management to hold, to pause.
Yep.
That has happened not once or not twice in my career as well, where I would have to advise management to say, hold on this change. The people are not ready.
Mm-hmm.
Technologically, we are not ready. Let's put some things in place to make sure that we are ready for the change.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Ayo. We've actually run out of time. It was supposed to be 30 minutes, but we're busy having fun, so it's very okay. So Ayo, thank you so much. So all these things you have talked about today, will all this be covered in the upcoming training that is starting for at the end of the month? And
Oh,
who are
yes.
the best people, like who should sign up for this training?
Yeah,
So
so we will be
will
looking.
okay, let me recap the question.
Sorry, let
All
me
what
let
I
you land.
asked. Yes. I know you're excited to respond. So most of all the things we've covered today, for anyone that is aspiring to start a career in change management, will the training that is starting at the end of the month, will it cover all of this? Right? And can you even define a persona? Who is that kind of person that should be signing up for that training?
All right. So thank you very much, okay. Um, The program is the OCD development, OCM development program is starting
Yep.
Ending of May. It's gonna run every Saturday for 8 Saturdays, and then starting May 30th, ending of this, the last Saturday of the month of May. So that's that about that. And who should be joining? Anybody who, number one, is interested in making a career out of this budding, emergent area, change management, which is gonna be in vogue for as long as projects are done. And there is no end to projects.
Yeah.
At the
I
end of
would
it,
even say, as long as change continues to happen, not
mhm,
just even project. Like the
that's
world is
right.
undergoing a massive change. And for me, I see a lot of opportunities for anybody that is looking to get into change management right now. So
Mhm.
as long as change continues to happen.
Yeah,
Okay.
as long as we have change happening, as long
Yep.
as, and it will continue to happen. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, um, AI is another kind of change that is happening right
Massive,
now.
massive. Yep.
Right now. And while there are threats, there are also massive opportunities. And
Yep.
so this is the right time for anybody who's interested in change management to start thinking about what programs can I join? What things do I need to learn to position myself in this field? And so if you are that kind of person, please join this program. Again, it's also going to be practical. I will not be the only one leading it. We're going to be having another senior change manager too, who would also be leading the same program. So we will be coming to the program with a lot of experience and a lot of transferable knowledge for you to make your mark in that field. If you are already in the field of change management, you
Mm-hmm.
still need to join this program because it also lets you know the latest trends, the new things that are happening in change management, being led by the fact for the fact that you're also going to be having seasoned faculties coming
Yep.
and pitching in to lead this program. So who should join this program? Anybody who's interested in change management. Any change
Mm-hmm.
manager who wants to develop their skills as a change in change management, and anybody also wants to switch from one field who is already an established professional in a field, but feels that they are at a point in their lives where they want to try something new, something that also gives them a higher upside. Please, you've got a lot of things to gain by joining this program. It's starting again ending of May, and we will be looking at more and more stuff that we can cover in 30 minutes of this Ask Me Anything series.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Ayo. And guys, for those that are just joining us now, you missed, but don't worry, you can always catch a replay. This live stream will be available for you to go back and catch up. Ayo, thank you so much. So we're going to be live again next week. So feel free to join us again or just come catch a replay here. Thank you, Ayo. And I think we're expecting even better conversations this next week when we come live, right?
Mhm.
Mhm. All right. So, any parting words for our audience? I see a couple of people are still online. So, what do you have to say to them before we end the call for today?
So thank you so very much for participating and for staying on. I will be looking forward to seeing you next week and to also seeing you at the development program. We're gonna be practicing different things, how to read resistance properly, how to choose the right response, and all of the other things that make change management a beautiful career. So have a good rest of your evening, or depending on whatever
But
time or wherever you're watching this from, have a good rest of your day.
all righty. Thank you, Ayo. And thanks everyone for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and see you again next week. Bye.